Yes, I'm
Oh,
ready.
all right. Hi, everybody. It's great to see you all again. Thank you for coming to the Creative Use of Difference, a discussion series created and what do I call it, hosted by Indya Childs. We're super excited to have Indya with us here from Atlanta. She's going to be in the Muncie area starting this weekend. So we are so close to this project really actually getting off the ground. This is our last discussion panel series in the Creative Use of Difference. And it's been a really, really fun project to work on. My name's Erin Williams. I am the Executive Director of the Muncie Arts and Culture Council. And I'm just really excited to welcome our panelists today. We have Beverly, Bautista, and Felecia Thomas. And I'm going to let Indya introduce them a little bit more and tell you about what they're up to. But I am going to introduce Indya. If you haven't been to any of these discussion series yet, you may not be familiar with Indya. And if you've been to them, you will know all about her by now. But Indya is from Atlanta, Georgia. She received her BA in dance from Kennesaw State University. Before the pandemic, Indya was living in New York and dancing with the Abbey Z and the New Utility. She is currently the director of the Peace, Love, and Dance Project, which is an organization which officially launched in September of 2020. So I'm going to pass it on to Indya. If we get a little farther along and we have a bit of time for question and answers, feel free to type your question and answers into the chat box, and we will keep an eye on those and open up for questions later. So thanks again, everyone, and hello, Indya. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Erin, and hello, everyone. First, I want to say thank you, Erin and PlySpace, for putting this together. And thank you to everyone that has been watching the previous discussions and staying tuned and staying connected with the project. I'm so excited to be coming to Indiana this weekend to officially and safely, of course, be able to produce this work that we have been developing and from our previous discussion. So thank you so much, Erin. It's such a exciting time to be creating work right now. And as we discussed before, just trying to make pivots, and trying to just make work in this new normal. So thank you so much, Erin, for your support and everyone that has been tuning in. So yes, again, my name is Indya Childs. I'm the director of the Peace, Love, and Dance Project, and welcome to our last panel discussion under the theme of the creative use of difference presented by PlySpace. Tonight, for our last discussion, we'll be discussing the new policies of dance with Beverly, Bautista, and Felecia Thomas. And just to give a little spiel about these powerful women, Felecia Thomas is a single mother to 3 amazingly talented daughters, and an entrepreneur and a mentor to many. Felecia is the owner and director of the award-winning studio Reigning Victory in Fayetteville, Georgia. And I'd like to say I've had the amazing honor of working at the studio for probably over 6 or 7 years. Anywhere I move to, I know that I can come back to Atlanta and find work. So thank you so much for being here tonight. It's nice to have this conversation with you. And of course, Beverly Bautista, who is a Filipino-American artist, dance educator, choreographer, and performer whose compassion and joy is fueled by empowering the next generation of artists. It is so lovely to have you here, Beverly, with us. I'm so excited to dive deep with you tonight. As the moderator, I'll be asking questions that go along with the dance film I'm creating with Ball State University's theater and dance students entitled Peace, Love, and Dance, which will premiere in the spring. And I'm so excited about that. Stay tuned for our release dates. And towards the end of the discussion, as Erin stated, we will open up the floor to any viewers that would like to ask any questions. And I always say this, I'm going to try to stick to the time, but usually when we start diving deep, we go a little bit over. So I'm definitely going to try to stick to it for our last discussion so we can have enough time to answer questions because we just get so into it. So with that being said, I'd like to welcome Beverly and Felecia. Hello.
Hello.
Hey. Thank you.
Beverly
and Erin, thank you.
Yes. I want to dive right into it again because the hour usually flies by because we really dive deep into things, and I do want to have enough time to ask questions, people to ask questions. So the first question is, many dance schools and institutions have made equity, diversity, inclusion, and belonging statements in the midst of 2020 after the death of George Floyd, especially. In your opinion, what made 2020 the year of action on topics of inclusion and diversity in dance institutions, though these topics have been on the table for years? And for this panel, we can have this as a conversation. You all can jump in, but whoever would like to start, you can begin.
Do you want to go, Felecia?
I'll go.
Go for it.
Absolutely. I think that the killing of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and many others definitely sparked what I call a new awakening. It's new attention to an old problem, new attention to an old problem. There are different times in our history where we have to always look at, what's going on in our society. And right now, this is what's going on. So we have to pay attention and, awake, be awakened. And then in that, make strategic plans to make differences, make changes, and not just talk about it, but be about it. A lot of people have written statements now about diversity, inclusion, and equity. And these are statements. Let's see everybody put all that to work. And so that's what I think this time is. It's like we've seen these statements, we've seen diversity, we've seen inclusion, we've seen these things in many organizations and businesses throughout the years, but we haven't seen a lot of work being done, a lot of action. We have to take action. So my thing is about action. I don't like to talk a lot. I like to be about it. So that's what I think it is. It's new attention to an old problem.
Beverly, how do you feel about this?
Yeah, I feel like, especially with the pandemic happening, it was an opportunity for everyone to see it on, whether it was on your phone or in social media. You could not escape it. And then it finally, I felt like it was finally a conversation where because I was doing my own internal research, because my partner, who is African American, he and I have these conversations all the time, and it's just something that we can be transparent with each other. But I feel like before 2020, that was a conversation that I was mainly having with him and maybe a select other people. And now I feel like that conversation has grown into the spaces, like, for example, the Ball State Alumni Society. It's something that I found is more accepting, and not that it wasn't accepting, it was just not a topic of conversation that would come up, and I just really appreciated that about that community, and just everyone being so transparent in those moments, and just taking a moment of reflection, because I felt like I was learning a lot, and I think just being awakened to those things, and knowing that there are people who are interested in learning too is an important part of the puzzle piece, because like Felecia said, it's not new, and that it was a new awakening.
Yeah, I think that like we discussed previously before we start the meeting, I think that because of the pandemic happening, where we all had to have this moment of pause and isolation, and we kind of like were able to take a moment to see what was really happening. I think that yes, this has been something that has been on the table for many years, about how we can be more inclusive in a dance setting, and how we can dismantle things. And I think now, because I think we had this unique time to be to really focus on and see what was happening, and we couldn't get away from it. I think I like what you're both are saying, is that now it's becoming a more open topic, where it's because now we must talk about this, because it's in the forefront, it's in our faces. We must discuss this in all settings, dance settings, company settings, or anything, because it's so there. And so my next question is, not only is inclusion and diversity on the table, but the topic of dismantling white supremacy in dance institutions is now also in the forefront. And so how has your approach to teaching, training, and mentoring your students changed in result of this? And we could have Beverly speak first, if you like, since we can switch and swap.
Yeah. So I think just being able to know for myself that white supremacy is not just overt. Um, it is covert, and there are a lot of things that fall under that. I think in some ways that I have been complicit growing up in a suburban neighborhood and being surrounded by predominantly Caucasian or and I guess a Caucasian population, and I think not being able to talk about my own identity or not realizing that was something that was important for me um, at a young age. I think looking back on it, it has become something that is now a part of my thesis work. So I think just understanding what white supremacy is first, and then how that plays into dance institutions is really interesting to me because it was again, it was never a topic of conversation. But I think being able to be surrounded by people who want to have that conversation, like I have a cohort member who is talking about Black women in ballet and Black girls in ballet, and just the concept of the tights and in like being able to have something that's flesh tone like according to your own skin and not something that is just pink tights is a huge shift that I've seen change within the language of syllabi. So even that is a step in a different direction that I think is a positive change, and something that again, and point shoes, exactly. Someone said and point shoes. And so I think even just making that shift and being inclusive and understanding just and knowing the details becomes a better opportunity to have that conversation and to feel included. Yeah, I think that was one of the things that I believe has shifted. And then also in like my teaching and training, I'm in the process right now of applying to schools and as a dance educator, since I'm going to be, I'm currently in my final year of grad school, getting my MFA in dance. So I know that this is something that I want to continuously learn about and have those conversations and open conversations of how to be more inclusive. So I'm actually really curious to know how Felicia's experience has been with her studio. So,
Yes, well, to your point about the tights, Raven Wilkerson was made to dance in whiteface
right.
during the time that she danced. I forget what company it is, but with that, I always taught my students historically what dance is in each culture, each different style. I teach history and then culturally, and then we bring our artistic, values to what's historical and what's cultural. Then I can take that and kind of make it my own without watering it down or anything like that. But I think that the initial choosing of the color of pink was to closely match your skin tone, to make it a nice long line or whatever. So I always teach my students about, where ballet in particular comes from, or jazz or modern. We do African, West African, South African, all types of dances. Then we go into like spiritual dances, which can be sometimes, um, you have to kind of be careful with those things because they're considered sacred. And so you don't want to disrespect the culture and trying to do something that's more of a spiritual thing. So I always have to, remind my students that like, when we study dance, we need to study where it comes from and why. But yeah, it's definitely, um, we're in 2020, 2021. It's a new year. Literally, it's a new year. It's a new time. We've expanded in more ways than none. We do have, every change is not going to happen overnight. So we do appreciate, like when I was dancing back in the day, you know, some people still do pancake their shoes, and I had to dip my tights in tea bags and coffee to make them match my skin color. So we've come a long way. Do we still have a long way to go? Yes, because when you only offer 2 shades of tan or brown, that's, you know, and we're all hues, it's like, well, you can't find any more material, or you don't want to spend the money on it, you know. But we're still having to spend money. For us, with, you know, in the studio level, we're still having to spend money on these things, you know, because we want to teach our styles of dance, and, you know, have the proper shoes. You know, we say they have to have ballet shoes for ballet class, but the ballet shoes don't match. You know,
Mm.
so it kind of makes it hard for us on the studio level to train students to become professional in, you know, in dance, and send them to universities, and send them to, you know, art spaces where they can be creative, and they don't have the knowledge or the background that they need to even get into those, you know, higher institutions of learning. So if
Right.
we don't know here at the studio level, you know, we have all these young people that are getting ready to grow up, you know, and if we're not teaching them here on the studio level, when they get to college or dance companies or auditions, they have no clue. um they don't have a voice. You know, I teach my kids, you know,
Mm.
if it's something that you're not comfortable with, or, you know, if they want you to have pink tights over, you know, neutral tights, ask them why. You know, why haven't we changed with the times? We're people not still just wearing pink tights unless it's part of the um a classical ballet where everybody's in pink, but that may be a artistic director decision. So let's ask those questions, not just be shut down by, no, you can't wear, you know, brown tights. Pink tights don't look, I mean, this pink look good on me now, but the pink tights, you
And
know.
it's interesting that you talk about that, Felecia, because there was I was just listening to some presentations from undergrad dance majors, and one of them was giving a presentation about dance credentials, and how in this, specifically in the state of California, there are no dance credentials or theater credentials needed in a public school setting. And but it's needed in music or visual arts. And it's interesting because when even looking at the percentages, it said that 2% of students would choose dance. So there isn't even access to, you know, there isn't access for people to even be interested in dance, let
Right,
alone have it be valued. So
right.
I think just the access, yeah, the access for dance is far and
Yeah.
few between in very certain places. In yeah.
I can even say when I was at Columbia College in Chicago, I think it was me and one other um, black girl in the class, in our ballet classes. Now in the modern classes, you know, and the African classes and cultural style classes, you know, they're all laid out. So I think too, um, with ballet in particular, like my students come in, they don't even ask for ballet. They immediately ask
Mm.
for a style of dance. Now it's required as a part of our curriculum. Because like with everything else, I believe that there is a great foundation there. Um, you know, the foundation is there, maybe not the ideology behind, you know, all these other things when it comes to the systematic racism that's, you know, attached to it like a cancer,
Embedded.
basically. Yeah. So
Hmm.
but does that mean we shouldn't be teaching it, or we should, no, we just got to, like this, get into places where we can discuss it, ask questions, be really brutally honest. Because with me, I asked India, you sure you want me to, you know, you want me to be a panelist? Because, you know, to me,
Yeah.
some questions are like, are you serious? Because equity to me is equal. If it's not a good amount of balance of on both sides, that's not equal.
Right.
That's not equal. And just to have a statement that says you are, and then it doesn't, you don't have anything that shows you are, we're still missing the mark. We're still missing it. We're still missing.
Hmm.
So
Mhm.
I employ
And
people,
I,
big, yeah, big companies and small companies to take an assessment of the culture of their businesses. When people walk in here, they should automatically feel included. They should automatically feel welcome.
Right.
You don't have to ask me questions about, can I and can you, and no, you should that should be something that you feel when you walk in here. Now, I'm a very small studio, as compared to a large university or anything like that. But even in that, people should want to, my youngest daughter, sidebar, she wants to play volleyball. So I'm online looking for a volleyball team, right? In the area. And all the things that I'm seeing, all the pictures are just the Caucasian girls. We're the black girls that do the volleyball, my daughter. Yeah. Now I like diversity. I like to see people of all races and hues and backgrounds and, cultures. That's just me. But I have to see a nice mixture of different people, not just one race. So that's what
Same.
I look for with my children. And I know that in our business and studio business, a lot of people look for that. People call and they ask, "Are you a Black owned studio?" And somebody asked me, "Can my white daughter dance here, or do you accept white students?" That's what I think she asked, and I was like, "Yeah, well, we accept anybody. Anybody want to dance, or do we take boys? Boys dance."
Wow.
So diversity and inclusion goes across the board, not even just with race, with gender, with LGBTQ plus, with people that are handicapped, people that are disabled, people that have mental illness. I mean, that's it just there's a whole gamut of this new new old problem that is
Right.
that we're still talking about. It's like, when do we come out of that? And when, that's my question to everybody. Like, when is it really gonna be like, okay, this is where we're at and it feels good?
Yep.
I think that in response, I think that it does come to listening. I think this is the most important thing where we are right now in how we are approaching this year and the upcoming years is that creating a safe space to be able to speak on these topics and speak openly and honestly and brutally honest, like you were saying, Felecia, about these issues. And then we must listen. I think like active listening, where we're not we're hearing the person's problem and what's happening in the community, and then we can have plans of action that actually match what the listening or what has been said in these types of meetings. So I think that's what's missing, is that yes, it's great to have these lovely words on the front page or front cover of your, I don't know, magazine or your website. Those are absolutely amazing because everyone wants to look for that. But I want to look at your CEOs and your staff. I want to see how that is being how these words are translating into the company. And so I want to ask. I'm gonna switch around the questions. I want to ask this question. You talk about representation. My question is, as a person of color, have you ever experienced tokenism as a dancer? And what can institutions do to ensure that there is a proper representation and diversity within their student body as well as their staff to avoid tokenism?
Well, I only laugh because because I can laugh at this point. And so just to give you both a little bit of background, my undergrad was at Ball State University, and it's honestly where I really started to hone in on my training. And I did not traditionally start when I was 3 in a studio, but I really believe that like my curiosity and my drive really brought me to where I am. But all of that to say, I did not know about a lot of things, and I did not explore my identity. I didn't ask these questions. There was less than 0.1% of Asians on campus when I was at Ball State, and I think it might have changed. It might have not. I'm not entirely sure at this present moment, but I know that I was put in some situations in dance roles where it wasn't, it was essentially yellow face, and I didn't have my makeup in a way that, it looked like specific things, but the attire was not my ethnicity. It was, it was just a whole bunch of things that have been in the lineage of what ballet was, and I didn't know this. I didn't know this, obviously, because I really started my training in college. And then I think just now, fast forwarding to this point in time, there has been just like this reckoning with the department, and just this. I just really really respect and appreciate what the faculty, and specifically the dance faculty, has communicated with me of really trying to lock arms with the BIPOC students, and really try to listen. Exactly what you're saying, India. Like it takes this moment of listening, and I feel like there's just this moment of like being heard, because there have been discussions within the Theater and Dance Alumni Society Board, as well as creating this program specifically called the Alumni Ambassador Program, that is about connecting and mentorship and providing education for BIPOC students. And which, shout out to Kayla Davion and Evan Duff, who are just really honing in on this and really just getting these things off the ground, and even just finding opportunities to include BIPOC students a part of the audition process. And to be able to see that, I think that that was, and just to be a part of that was really, for me to see that into going into this application process of looking for a job. Like, I would love to be a part of a job that would be a part of the something like that would show me that there is diversity, like what you're saying, Felecia, just to create that opportunity, be about it. Yeah. So yeah, that's where I was at.
I don't think I have ever, I'm trying to think if I've ever experienced tokenism. I don't think that I have. I've obviously seen it and witnessed it in different places, maybe in college. Like, again, only in the ballet classes. I probably was the only Black girl. And with Columbia College being such a diverse institution, in that ballet class, not so much. So, but I can't even recall then that there was any tokenism, because I guess I'm just, I wouldn't, my personality wouldn't have allowed for that to happen.
Okay.
It's so interesting, because even in the California, even being a part of the commercial dance industry in Los Angeles, I was a part of several different gigs that I was direct booked on. I am 99% sure, because I was Asian and because they needed to fill that quota within that specific job or commercial. So, I mean, that is capitalism, when it comes to selling the thing and doing those things. But I can specifically look back and think of, oh yeah, that was that Oil of Olay campaign. Or like, oh, that was that music video, that those were, that it was just something that I knew was a thing, but I didn't know that it shouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
It's funny that that you say that, Beverly, too, because I realized I've experienced tokenism many times in my career. And I wasn't aware of it at the time, but when I became more aware of myself, I realized it, and it was kind of a wake up call to me, because it made me question everything that I've done, because a lot of people like to give this racially ambiguous look, and I can fit that look if they need me to. You know what I mean? I had longer hair. I was able to fit whatever they needed me to fit. And I would play that role, and I would think, okay, they want me because I'm good. They want me to be here in this space because of the work that I'm doing. But I think I started to have an identity crisis, I think, the past 2 years, where I was studying out of school, and I was so excited to be there, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited to be here. I remember the first day when we all had to sit down and come into the room, and I realized, oh, I know why I'm here. because I'm the only brown spot in the room. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
because I was wondering how I got accepted so quickly into the program because it was supposed to be a hard program to get into. So I said around the room, I said, I see why I'm here. I see why I'm here. And it broke my heart a little bit because I thought that because I've trained so hard, because of my resume, that's why I was there. And not to discredit what I'm doing, but I know the game of politics. And it became clear to me when it was actually stated at a point where I had we were doing some outreach things and in a school, and I'm going to say this because I felt it's rubbed me the wrong way, but I remember we had to do these different shows in different schools, and we had to go to an African American school district. And I remember when the directors coming to me, and I was done with my shows, and they said, "Hey, you need to do like 2, 3 more shows." I'm like, "Well, why? Like, I'm done with my performances." Well, we're going to African American schools, and we want to showcase that we represent and that we have African American students. So I think that it would be great if you go, and perform. And you know, I understood why, but it was like, why do I have to represent the entire race? This is not telling the truth. We don't have diversity here. Like this,
Right.
I'm the only black in this room. You know what I mean? And with that, I'm very light skinned, and I recognize that too. So, you know what I mean? I'm not really representing the many different cultures or many different people. So I think, yeah, it just broke my heart to realize that that was my role. And then when we had interviews, they would always call me down to do the interviews for commercials and advertising the program. I'm like, what? You know what I mean? And I think it was just like,
Yeah.
it made that, I don't know, it made me upset because I'm like, I want to be here because I'm good. I want to be here because I've worked, very hard. I don't want to be here because you want to showcase this idea of representation and diversity when that isn't the case. I'm the only one. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, that's why I'm always asking and challenging. How do we really get out of this idea of like, okay, we're not racist, or we do have an inclusive space because we have one person here. You know what I mean? We have one Asian, we have one black person, we have we have these one numbers, but like kind of like what Dee Dee was discussing in our previous panel discussion, a black woman creating, she was saying, okay, even as a person of color, a black woman looking at the staff opportunity, if we see one black woman there, we're like, ooh, we might have a hard time, and we might have a hard time getting into that space because it may be hard to have 2 people or 3 people or 4 people in a space and a person of color or a black woman. So I think, yeah, I'm always interested in how we can really figure out how do we get out of tokenism, and just using that as saying that we're not, even when it comes, especially ballet companies, when it comes to Misty Copeland and people like that, how we say, oh, we're not racist because we have someone that can represent a community, which I think is pretty unfair and gives that so much responsibility to that one person and not let them be an individual. So I think, yeah, I really want to get into how can we proper represent diversity within the student body, within the staff, so that way that when statements of inclusion diversity are posted on websites and things like that, we can actually look and see that that is the case through how their staff is, through how they're moving as a company, if that makes sense.
Yep. And if you go to a lot of companies, you could just pick pick 2 top companies and some, and then go find some smaller companies, micro organizations, and look and see. And 9 times out of 10, that's all you're gonna see is all these words, all these
Yeah.
words, and all these things that say, just like what you were saying, India, is, this is what we're doing. This is how we made, changes in the wake of COVID and 2020 and the whole, this is what we're doing to affect change. But are you really affecting change, or are you just, this is just a little band-aid? We're just gonna put this on because just to kind of to soothe and ease these people's minds and hearts and souls about this whole issue of race relations, and how we deal in our society with systematic racism. And it is just so, for me, it's so simple. You know, when you think about diversity, you know, we're all different. You know, we all bring something different to the table, and you know,
Right.
we can all learn from each other. And when you think about inclusion, is are, when I look at you, can I see myself? Period. When I look at your organization, can I see when I'm teaching my students and I send them to different places, what are they going to see? Are they going to see themselves up there, or are they going to be able to feel like, okay, there's a great representation of us? And then equity, everybody throwing this word around like they don't understand. 2 + 2 is 4. You know, equal, equal is equal. You know, and I don't understand, like you said, and I don't know how to get to that point, but when people can realize that if your board is all Caucasian, a lot, you know, because a lot of us operate as organizations, so we have boards and we have advisors and things like that. If you don't have any Asian Americans or um, Pacific Islanders, or you don't have African Americans represented, you know, Native people, if you don't have other representation, then yeah, nobody's gonna want to do that.
Mhm.
They're not gonna want to do it. Plain and simple. I'm not gonna go. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna find those organizations that are in the communities that you know are culturally appropriate. You know what I'm saying? And just I feel like, okay, this is welcoming. I feel like I can find a place here, even when it comes to institutions of higher learning. You know, the same thing applies. The same thing
I
applies.
mean, to be completely honest with you, I I am a part of an institution currently that is a diverse population, and it has actually a high population of Asians, Asian and Asian American students. But when I go into my particular department, there is only one Asian ballet teacher,
Mm,
and and I don't see that diversity. And
Mhm.
and I know that things are changing. I know that there's been a reckoning within, the world at large. So I know these conversations are happening, but it like you said, Felecia, it takes, if you just look at the board, is there something that we can change? Is there something that we can add? Is a way that we can integrate this in a way that makes sense and is not forced and just to meet a quota?
yep.
And to ask that question, why isn't that happening? Like, why aren't there applicants of that are diverse? Is the opportunities at a micro level not there? And even that micro level is actually a very important part of the learning process, because that develops your formative years.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But
Yeah.
Yeah,
we're all marginalized in these marginalized communities, Asian American, Pacific Islanders. There's a lot of things going on in those communities, even right now. You know,
Right.
people just
Anti-Asian rhetoric. Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
It's so crazy. And I'm like, I don't know why I came up on an article yesterday about that. And I'm like, well, what is really going on? But then me and my little African American bubble, I didn't know that, that was a thing.
Sure.
Because I'm so focused on making sure that, you know, in my business, in the nonprofit that, I am the artistic director of, that we are making sure that we are doing everything to make sure that people feel welcome here, whoever they are.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so I just employ people just understand that there's a lot going on in our society, period. Um,
Mhm.
with people of color, not just African American people, everybody that's here that's an immigrant or that was brought over here,
Hello.
um, uh, through the slave trade. It's just a lot. And yeah, we're in it's 2021 and we've passed that, but we haven't like really figured out why we just can't move past it with the Caucasian Americans. You know what I'm saying? Like it is what it is. It's the white supremacist attitude. Like, okay, we get it. You know what I'm like? That's, you know, it's a
Right.
system. it's a whole system. So like, where do you start with fixing that? Where do you, I can start with me. But if everybody had my attitude, you know, we would probably be in a better place. Or again, people just want to say they're doing it so that they can be like, okay, I'm off the hook. You know, I'm doing it, and then I'm going to put a few people here and a few people there and sprinkle them here and sprinkle them there. And I'm going to be off the hook for a minute until that, guess what? Till we become awakened
Mm-hmm.
as a nation, you
And
know.
I know
And
that for myself, I know that you know, like you were saying, like you feel like your calling is with that nonprofit, and I know that because I'm getting this MFA, I know that I want to be able to be in a position where I can call the shots, where I can create diverse faculty, where I can be a part of
yeah,
an administration, and slowly, you know, and just have those conversations, because it happens in those rooms where people are making those decisions.
yep, there
And
you
so
go.
how do we get into those rooms? And I know that this is just one way that I can do that, and be in that position, and or just learn how to be a part of that solution of just of what it really means to be diverse, you know. So
Mhm.
yeah.
I think too, just just thinking about what you both said, it's really about to go back to one of our other discussions that we had with Dee Dee in our previous discussion. It was really challenging the space. I think that we constantly have to challenge the space and not get to a place
Sure.
of feeling comfortable. You know what I mean? I think that because we have one little victory or something, we must continue to push the idea of inclusion and diversity and keep challenging the space. Um, while also listening. I think that what I love about and to kind of give a little spiel about where this the title of the creative use of difference it comes from Audre Lorde, and she and her theory of difference and how us celebrate our differences in order for us to be able to elevate the community, be able to springboard off of each other to get to this place of where we can all hold each other's hand, if you will. So I
Yeah.
think, yeah, in order for this to happen, I think that we must have these conversations with everybody in the room, if that makes sense. Everyone needs to be in the room when discussing these topics, all different types of people with
Yeah.
their different brought into the room and
Yeah.
discussing these things, because I think because of the lack of representation, it leaves room for ignorance. It leaves room for people to not quite understand what's going on because no one's in the room to say, "Hey, that's not how it is," or "This is not how it's supposed to be," or this is the actual way things happen." So
Yep.
I think it has to be
Sure.
a moment where room and bring our differences in there with us and discuss things like this and just have conversations and ask questions and be curious and then find plans of action because one discussion before too, it's like, how can you really build a community if you don't really know what's happening in the community as far as
Absolutely.
outside of, we have to be aware of what's happening in this community and that community and this community to be able to um, understand when someone is saying something where they're coming from. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
that can lead to more research, that can lead to more investigation or whatever you need to do. But I think because again we don't have everyone in the room and because of the lack of representation, that it leaves space for slip ups if you must, or just moments of where was someone to say this is not appropriate? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Exactly.
I
That's
it it makes me think of that quote from Nina Simone: "An artist's duty, as far as I'm concerned, is to
yes.
reflect the times." And exactly what you're talking about, India, is curiosity. How can you
Mhm.
continuously be more curious and ask the questions yourselves, and first, and then ask it outwardly, and um, and find that mode of solidarity. What does solidarity look like to you? Is it embodied, and
Mhm.
is it performative? And really ask yourself that question. Are you doing this just to repost something, or are you doing it because you really want to give your time and money and space and energy towards learning about and understanding and from a different perspective? So I feel like I feel like solidarity can look like in different ways, but but knowing where you are at in your journey and continuing on that. That's like what Dee Dee said.
Mm-hmm. And so this brings to the next question. As dance educators and mentors, what do you feel could be a solution on creating a safe space for dancers to express their emotions, especially anger and grief, on topics centered around inequality? What do you feel that could be done, especially in university settings or things like that, to create a safer space to express things like this?
Well, I'll say what I do here. Our spaces are safe for our students, and we do create and have always created space for them to express themselves and whatever's going on. Um, at home, we do have people that can come in to work with them that are more on a professional level of therapy or psychology, just to kind of help us to you know deal with some of the issues that they're dealing with. As even like now, sometimes we just have to stop class and like just let them just have their moments,
Mm-hmm.
um and talk about, get it off their chest, because a lot of times, especially with kids, they don't have those accesses at home where they can talk to, or they feel
Right.
free enough to talk to their parents. And so I tell all my students and parents, this is like, I'm like a counselor. you know
Yeah.
I
So
must,
true.
let me put this disclaimer on it. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a therapist. I don't have any,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
but I'm a mother. And so I do understand the nurturing aspect of we all have to be nurtured, even in my adult years. I remember going to therapy as an adult, and the therapist was like, "Well, tell me about your childhood." And I'm like, "No, I need to deal with my adult stuff. Like I done dealt with that. I need help here where I'm at now. I don't want,
Right.
because I'm at a place now where I'm ready to deal with the stuff I'm dealing with right now." And so I think we have to approach it like it's heavy on all right now. This whole year have been like it's been heavy, and
Hello. Yeah.
it's so many different emotions, at the same time, because even in this heaviness, I was able to start a nonprofit. Even in its heaviness, I was able to gain more clients in my business, because of
Wow.
social media is
Amazing.
like booming right now. So, I was able to obtain some clients. I didn't have to shut my doors. I was at a place, and in the business, on the business side of this, I was at a place where I didn't have to shut down, where so many studios and so many performing arts programs really literally had to close their doors because
Yeah.
we don't have, you know, money stacked up like that where we could just take care of things. But um I'm seeing studios close left and right, and I'm just thankful that I'm at a place where my doors are open. Whoever wants to come through, come right on. And we've actually been able to have in-person classes. So that's another thing, and then if the ones that we can't, we still going on Zoom. The ones that are not comfortable, we're still on Zoom. Like, you don't even have to come in if you feel more comfortable at home. That's inclusion. That's what inclusion
That's
looks
great.
like.
Yeah.
It's not always about
That's
race.
right.
I have a student that's hearing impaired that's on Zoom. And I'm like, okay, something's not translating to her because of the Zoom, and I don't know if the closed caption is working in real time for her. So I got to figure out what I need to do to make sure that she can get what everybody else is getting. I'm gonna hire her
Right.
an interpreter, online, that will Zoom in and be able to interpret what we're saying in class to her while she's Zooming, and from another whole state. So that's inclusion. That's what it looks like.
That's right.
It's just that simple. So when you can go in and, I've even gone far as changing the bathrooms. I used to have boys, girls, little girls' room, little boys' room. They just bathrooms, okay? Use the bathroom. That ain't good. I don't know who's in here, and I don't
Great.
care, but I want everybody that walks through the door to know they can go and use the restroom and not have to feel like, okay, and it's only one bathroom for girls and one bathroom for boys, but the boys' bathroom is open. Just go use it. That's what inclusion looks like. So it's a whole gamut of different things, not just race. you know, everything else. And that's what diversity looks like. And that's what we all have something different that we can bring to the table. So yeah, when our kids come in here, I want them to feel like they can come and talk to me about whatever they need to get off their chest. This is a safe space for them to just dance it out, work it out, whatever, when they get to talk about really serious things, then that's when I have to call in some backup, because
Right.
I don't know, I will say that young people, middle school age to high school, they deal with so much, you know, um, from school, from social things at school, from, bullying, peer pressure, the whole nine. And so I've had some really deep, serious situations where I've had to, like, we're gonna have to talk to your parents, because we don't want a situation where we're all like, okay, well, we didn't say nothing, so and there's that. So we try to make sure that people feel welcome in here, welcome enough. Our kids, we're a small studio in a small organization, so our kids can come to me. Most of them do, or they have a buddy that they can call on. Um, and then if it's serious, we try to intervene and get the parents involved. But they know that they can come in and they're whatever they want to get off their chest. If they want to say something about the parents, I'm like, if as long as I feel like it's okay for me as a parent, I won't say anything. But I always say, if you don't want me, nobody to know, your parents to know, or whatever, call me Miss Snitch. Don't tell me, because I'm gonna tell. I'm gonna say something. So, but I'm dealing with babies, y'all. I'm dealing with age, 4 to 18. So,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
know not to tell me all their business. They don't want me to tell their parents, because then now I got to say something, because I feel guilty as a parent that I know and the parents don't know.
Well,
I do want to hear Beverly. What do you have to say on this topic of creating space for?
Well, to go back to what you were talking about when it comes to equity, and in thinking about, not everyone has access to a device that is a laptop or a computer, and I ran into that when I had a master class that I taught 2 days ago through Zoom with a high school, and I remember because we were talking about choreographing at home specifically for this students to write in the chat. So what is a feeling that you want to bring out when you're dancing this? And I said, do something that speaks to what you're feeling right now. And some people said, yeah, I'm happy. I want to bring out feelings of feeling excited. And one person said, I'm frustrated. And I was like, yep, let it out. I don't want you to feel like you need to say things that I want to hear. And it got to the point where afterwards, when I actually spoke to their teacher, the teacher was saying, yeah, that particular student lives in a multi-generational home. So she was probably frustrated that sometimes her brother comes in and disrupts her space, and she also had, I don't even know. But when it comes to being able to be inclusive, it's just knowing that not everyone has access to all of these things, and how can we create modes of learning that are not just meeting in this space to meet in this space. Is there a different way that students can learn, and how can we adapt to that, and have them be able to express those emotions in those modes in their own time, and to help them, and to help them embrace that self-discipline, because like you said, Felecia, they're growing into adults, and they need to learn how to do this on their own. And it gets to the point where I didn't even know this, like through the college system. At 18, they don't communicate to the student at all. Or they don't communicate to the student's parents at all. It's completely to the student. So yeah, so they are a full grown adult at 18. So yeah, I just really empathize with that.
It's interesting. These times are so interesting because when I was growing up, you had to leave your emotions outside the door when you came into the studio. You know, you could not bring in your like your emotions, like you came to dance, you know what I mean? And that was kind of the old school training mindset, that whatever was happening out there, just leave it out there and just come in and be who I need you to be for this moment, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I think now these times are so unique because we can't even get away from being at home, or getting away from a situation, because we are at home. You know what I mean? So we are bringing in, when we walk into Zoom, we're bringing in our environment with us. I think it's such a unique. So I think even how we're teaching, it has to be more mindful of that, because, you know, luckily we can have that imagery of, because of leaving things at the door, because you actually walk into a studio space and we can feel each other's energy in that way. But I think now it is a lot of personal investigation happening, and a lot of just be revealing, because it's like, I am at home, and you may see something that that would normally happen in the studio setting because I'm at home. You know what I mean? So I think that it's such a unique time, because also too, a lot of students have to adapt quickly to this new way of learning, especially dancers and movers. Like, we don't have enough space to move. Some people are living in smaller apartments, and some people, have access to more things, and that becomes more revealing as well. And so it's a lot going on. So I think emotionally, it's like, and in the midst of protesting, and just and a kind of just kind of chaotic state of the world also, it's like, how can you not bring that into the studio? And I think that it's so important now, educators, to be equipped and understand, or even if it is bringing in someone else to speak to your students, or if it's you doing the research or whatever you feel comfortable with, to be able to be a sounding board, or be able to understand that some students are not going to be able to handle what's happening outside right now. Some people are not going to be able to are going to be more sensitive to things now because of this, of what's happening in the media, and how things being portrayed and things like that. So it's really about, I think now, as we move forward and creating inclusive spaces, is the listening and understanding that everyone is different. Everyone is bringing something different, and we can even see that. Like I said, when you log into Zoom, we can see some people may have laptops, some may have Apple, some may have an old computer. It's just, that's just how it is, and we have to understand when we come to teach that, and how we lesson plan. It's like, we really have to be mindful of that, because of of the differences that we all have. And I think that's the beauty of it, is that we're able to showcase empathy and be able to understand, like, okay, even if I don't, even things have happened as far as within the world, I think even if people don't quite understand what's happening, or they don't really agree, it's like, at least understand and listen to what people have to say, to be able to create a safe space. So that way, when a college student needs to talk to you and ask you questions about, why do I feel like I'm being treated this way in class, and this person's treating me this way in class, why is this happening, or why I feel like I'm not, or just different things about that, how, and being able to properly answer these things. You know what I mean? I think that's kind of where, moving forward, I think, as far as creating these places of inclusion, diversity, and belonging, but also doing the internal work to be able to understand that when someone brings me a tough question about something, I need to, be able to say, okay, let's, even though I may not know it, let's go there, let's listen, let's investigate, let's talk to who we need to talk to, let's call who we need to call to get these things to be shifted, I think. So on that note, I do want to open up the floors for anyone that has any questions, for what we've been discussing, and just things that you would like to ask Beverly and Felecia about what we've been discussing, as far as the new policies of dance and how we're going to be. I love that Charmaine, from our last discussion, she said, Indy, you don't have to change the world, but it's just about, I think that that's so important, is that we're all listening in this conversation. So if you'd like to pop anything in the chat box, we can see that, or in the Q&A box, I can look at the questions, and we can read any if you have any.
And
Yeah,
also too,
as we
I
wait,
wanted to
does
add,
anybody have anything they'd like to? Um,
Oh, Beverly.
yeah, I just wanted to add really quickly,
yeah.
something that one of my professors did, before fall quarter, even before summer quarter started, last year, was she created this Google type form for everyone to fill out, for all the students to fill out ahead of time, to let her know, and it was something that was required as an assignment, so they would be forced to do it. But it was also a way for them to say what time zone they were in, to know if how many devices they have, or what access they have to certain devices. Are they able to turn their cameras on? Is it, like, and just, or say, have that this space to say, here's what's going on in my environment. I'm working 2 jobs. Like, there was an opportunity for the student before the class started to let the professor know, here's what's going on in my world. And I just love that she considered that, even in a class of 350 students. So it's
Mm.
possible to feel, included, and to find spaces to know more about your students. It's definitely something that I hope to
Yeah,
do.
and I think it's yeah, I love that because in our previous discussion, Ted was saying in the art of politics, he said that things are working. We have to look at other companies and look at other people and other organizations and see what's working. People are doing the work,
Yep.
and we see the results. So it isn't like it's a question of how do we do it. It's like we need to see what's working already and then and embody that and then keep that kind of process going to be able to keep this pushing the space
Yeah.
idea going. So I think that, like, for example, like that's something that could work. We could test
Yeah.
that out if we had that as mandatory for each student must have this, so we can know. Okay, for example, if a student turns in an assignment late or she's always like barely making the marker, it's because she's working 3 jobs and she's going to school and she's trying to support X, Y, and Z, and that's
Right.
something to take is that she's paying for her own school or he's paying for it. So it's like that's important, I think, to know, because I think the problem with sometimes with equality is that we treat everyone the same without realizing that some people are not having the same starting point, and some people are,
Yep.
and therefore they have to go a different route to get to the same ending point. Some may have straight
Mm-hmm.
path where they can here to here without any bumps or any so that's where I think to get to the equity part where it's like we reach and say what do you need, what do you need, what do you need, because then it becomes everybody has an equal starting point. Maybe this student needs a laptop, this student doesn't need one,
Right.
this student needs this, so it's like then therefore we have an equal
Yeah.
playing field to get to a ideal equal ending point, I think.
Right.
um
Makes
Yeah.
so
And as an educator, my professor in my dance pedagogy class, she was telling me, she's like, these are the things as an educator that are the hidden labor of it. Sometimes you need to dig a little bit deeper, and it may be outside of what you're being paid for. And as long as it's safe and it's ethical, and it's still by the rules, and you're still being safe with all that, but there's still some aspects of it where you can ask the second or third or fourth question, and to get down to it.
mhm.
Mhm.
I agree with all of
Okay, I'm
that.
gonna double check one more time.
Great.
um I don't see any questions in our Q&A or in our chats. Would you like to have any closing remarks before we end our series?
I'll just say this, in the dance studio world, we're having a big meeting. I'm a part of a network called dancestudioowner.com. And so they've actually asked me to come on to help start writing these policies for the studios that are all part of this network. So
That's so
um,
great.
our handbooks look the same. So you can go to her studio and her
Mhm.
studio and her studio, and this is what you'll see.
That's
Um,
great.
this is how we all start working together in this. And then, with this conversation with the studio level, and and the artistic, the cultural arts, and in the higher education, this kind of lets me know, okay, this is what you know you have to look forward to. And so in the studio level, we have the young ones that are getting ready to come, getting ready to grow up and go to these different organizations. So the conversations are being started, the conversations and the implementations of these key things in regards to diversity, inclusion, and equity
Mhm.
are being done. And like anything new, it takes time um, to bring it to
To implement it.
yeah, to implement
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
And so that's when you go back and look and assess and say, okay, this is what we've done. This is what, these are the goals. This is what we're doing to get to those goals. And then,
Right.
go
And
back.
are we on track?
Are we on track? And go back and look at
Yeah.
it, make corrections and make changes. But as long as
That's
you're
right.
moving in those directions, I feel like, you're doing your part. I fool with people who fool with me.
Yeah,
Beverly, did you want to say anything before?
I just wanted to say thank you, India, for creating this space, and thank you, Erin, for having us be a part of it. I think I continuously learn more about different areas of different pockets of the world, and I think it's just important to talk about these things. So I really appreciate it. So thank you.
I also wanted to say thank you to
And
everybody in
thank you.
the room. Thank you so, so much for being here and for all of your amazing conversation. I sit in the background and I just like eat it up, and it's amazing. So honest and so thoughtful and really moving, and it's great. So thank you so much for being here. And thank you to all of the students and all of our attendees who are with us tonight as well. We're really, really excited that we were able to do this project, and we can't wait to see the next part. I don't know, India, do you want to talk about what comes next with this that people can chime in and see?
Yes. Can everyone hear me? Just to make
Yes.
sure.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay. My internet is like doing funky things. Yes, I want to say thank you to everyone that has been tuning in for all of these discussions, and I hope that this is has your gears turning as well, and hopefully these conversations, you can have these with your partners, and keep things going. And I just want to thank all the panelists that have been here and have just dropped all this beautiful knowledge. I've been writing and thinking and just diving deep into all of this. So I thank you so much, Beverly and Felecia, for speaking tonight. Thank you so much, Erin, for putting this together. And so the next steps is that I from the conversations that are being had, I am using them as inspiration for the work that I'm creating for the Peace Love Dance film. And from these conversations, I speak with the dancers, and we reflect on what was said, and we build material off of that. We ask questions. We dive even deeper into what was said in these discussions. So they're very helpful in research for this work. And so the film will premiere at the end of March, and it'll be online. I think on the Ball State website. And you can check it out and tune in. Yes, and it'll be on the Ball State website. And yes, I'm so excited to put it all together and just honor all of your words and just let them shine through. So I'm so excited to actually be up there this weekend and start the process of production and filming and just making the magic happen. So thank you so much again, Erin, for putting this together. Thank you so much, Beverly and Felecia. We will have another conversation. We're going to keep this conversation going. It's not going to end. We're going to, keep being accountable and pushing the space and doing all our pivots and everything. and I posted the links in the chat box if you want to take a look at it and stay connected.
And shout out to Melanie Swihart.
Yes.
I appreciate you.
Yes, she is so amazing. She's the reason why I'm here. So thank you so much, Mel. And that's all I have.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.